Ladies and gentlemen of the old world, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between the Greenskins and Wood Elves here on Borderlow Landing. It's going to be myself with the new Savage Orc Great Shaman facing off against Tim the Wilder, who's going to be rocking a Spellweaver of Flock of Doom, which did actually get nerfed in this patch, which is quite nice. Now, as far as my build goes, it is going to be Gobbos in the front line. Somebody's got to get in there and get run over and shot in the face with arrows, followed up by the Orcs, who are then going to be backed up by the new Night Goblin Big Boss. So these guys are pretty sweet. The ability to summon 2 squigs is very powerful. I think with the kit I brought them with, they're like 500 or 600 gold, so very dirt cheap, and they can summon 800 gold worth of units, and do also have the ability to heal while providing a little bit of combat prowess. What's not to love? So that's going to be it for the core front line. And I think more goblins and orcs on this side. The Savage Orc character, not going to be bringing anything too crazy, just kind of a bare bones caster lord. And against Wood Elves, these are probably 2 of the better spells in my opinion. You bring Brain Burster, or Bursta, I should say. It does a ton of damage against light armor. So you pop this on Dryads, Eternal Guard, Archers. It's really, really good. You see it has 0 AP value, but like I said, Wood Elves don't really have much armor. And then you want Fists of Gork. Dryads do have physical resist, so being able to imbue magic damage on like a decisive combat is actually kind of useful in this matchup. Now, the new tech I'm going to be bringing to the table against the Wood Elves is the Arachnarok Spider Flinger Shrine. So this thing is pretty cool. It does have a really long range, 400 range attack, which does do good damage against like tightly bunched up units, so like Eternal Guard, and probably will do good against the Glade Guard as well. And, a little bit of anti-large prowess in combat and terror as well. So that is going to be my build. Now for the great Tim the Wilder here, it's going to be a front battle line of Dryads backed up by Eternal Guard. So a very, very stalwart front line, right? Dryads actually, I always thought they had higher leadership, but sitting at 65, the Eternal Guard at 85, and the Glade Guard Hagbane Tips are going to be in the back line here with the magic damage and poison. And the magic damage is relevant against Greenskins because of the prevalence of Savage Orcs. Granted, that's why you don't bring Savage Orcs against the Wood Elves, is because they have so much magic damage. But that is going to be it, like I said. Spellweaver casters, so mostly Dryads, Spears, and Archers, and they're going to be backed up by some Light Cav that will be coming out eventually. So Arrow of Kurnus being used out of the gate. He did shoot 1 Arrow of Kurnus at my lord here, so the Savage Orc Great Shaman's going to be hiding in the bushes. It is the Walmart budget Wurzag, and the Spider's going to be cruising up and launching some missiles downtown now with the Eternal Guards. We're going to see if it connects here. In the meantime, some light skirmishing going down, so we do have our Light Cav, the Goblin Wolf Riders, just exchanging fire very happily here with the Waystalker, and I'm just trying to juke his shot, so going back and forth, and getting a little bit of work done there. So here comes the bombardment, the globule. Here it comes, uno, dos, tres, and does it make contact? Oh no, it's shooting at this unit here. It looks like it does hit them, and even if it does miss, it actually drains their vigor as well for, I think 10 seconds. So it will lower their vigor by, I guess, 10%, which isn't terrible, because vigor is very important, right? You can see it does affect the stat lines when they get tired and, get exhausted and whatnot. So Archers are cruising up, and he does have the objective initially, but I will be able to grab this here in a moment. And now we're going to be trying something else in this matchup. So I think it's a little risky going elite infantry against Wood Elves, especially since they have the new very cost-effective great weapon units. Well, they're not new, but they're recently patched and changed. But trying out the Black Orcs with shields, right? Super high armor, so Dryads are going to do nothing against them. On top of that, they do have silver shields, they're immune to psychology, and they look super cool too. So sometimes you got to intimidate your opponent with the cool-looking stuff. But they're going to be cruising up towards the objective. Of course, I'm going to be taking many arrows to the face out of the gates, but the Spider is putting some pressure on the Wood Elves here, and I want to see a direct hit, like a really, really square one right there, and there we go. So that's not bad at all, right? Normally the Greenskins, you can go rock lobbers and things like that, but having a big like anchor piece monster that can also serve as an artillery piece is kind of cool in this matchup. So advancing up, the Goblins going to be pushing back some of the Eternal Guard, but now going to be slapped up by the Dryads. So very good play from Tim, right? Because Eternal Guard will not kill Goblins very quickly, but the Dryads will. So I think that's a very smooth play. So in response to this, we unleash the Squigs. So the Squigs are going to be summoned out and will be immediately turning on the Dryads, providing me with some anti-infantry in this fight, and will make the Goblins certainly fare much better in this situation. So fighting continues to rage on in the middle. The objective is controlled by the Wa. The Greenskins do have this, and on the backside, we're just guarding our objective with some Orc Boys and some Goblins. In the meantime, the Spider Shrine is just kind of switching on Archers, and you can see it's actually doing really good damage. One of the Glade Guard has been beaten up very, very badly, down to about 40%. The other one taken down to about, I guess 60%, give or take, from that shot right there, which is very cost effective. And now the Black Orcs have arrived at the objective. But Tim the Wilder, of course, being one of the stronger players out there, is going to have the ample tech on the battlefield. I do switch my focus fire onto the Wildwood Rangers with the Spider, and now we're going to get a big pit fight in the middle. But we do have Goblins here as well and some chaff units, so it's not going to be the Black Orcs just 1v1ing the Wildwood Rangers, which would be a bad fight. So I felt pretty confident. I also have really good AoE magic that I can pop here. So we do use the Brain Busta, and there we go, right? A lot of damage going down, and the bombardment from the Spider. We almost instantly KO. his expensive unit down to about 40%. So now the Black Orcs are going to be more than happy to take that fight. And I did call out a second Black Orc here, so we do have more elite infantry out on the field, which I love any excuse to use my elite infantry. It always feels super good and is really, really fun. But very fierce fight. Value's pretty much dead even. 1,300, 1,400 against 1,600, so pretty negligible difference here if you include routing and summons and different things like that. And now the Orc Boarboy Biggins are going to be getting called in. That's usually very much the meta for the Greenskins in Domination, is you're going to be opening with a wide Orc Boy, Goblin-based army. And I think that's probably the biggest strength of the Greenskins overall, is the strength of their low, like mid-tier cav. Like Orc Boarboys for 650 are such a freaking steal. Their charge bonus, their damage output, their armor piercing, they bring a lot to the table. And we do get into the backfield a little bit. Some of the summon squig herds do bounce back here, and they are going to be munching on the Glade Guard Hagbane tips. So very cost effective here, shutting down some of the archer units with our squigs, and the Orc boys also do get into the secondary and are doing a little bit of crumping. And now we're starting to pull a bit of a value lead. Or not lead, but equalizing and closing the difference. Spider's going to be cruising up in melee, mainly been shooting with it this entire time, and it has gotten 1,000 value just sitting back and shooting, which makes me think that maybe it's better to just sit back and shoot with this bad boy, because man, oh man, it was racking up some good value. Really good Flock of Doom there from Tim. That was a beautiful cast. Going to be hitting the goblins, going to be hitting the blorks, and also my character. Not that it does much against characters, but even still, every morsel of value does matter. And on this side, Tim is going to be calling out Sisters of Thorn, which with their javelin poking are not bad, and they can also deal with the Greenskin Light Cav. They don't want to be fighting the Boarboy Biggins, that's for sure, but against the other targets, they can do some serious work, and these squigs continue rampaging through the secondary, causing quite a bit of havoc. So objective, unfortunately for me, has flipped to the Wood Elves, so very, very contested in terms of points. 404 against 373. Flock of Doom going to be going down here on the Moon Howlers as well as the infantry, and it looks like he's going to be getting the winning fight here as my goblins do get routed, and the Eternal Guard do get some nice support from the Sisters of Thorn and are able to break my position. So this is a little bit stressful. This was kind of my flank here and the gateway to my back objective, which is being defended simply by Goblin Spears. So if Tim wants to, he's going to have an opportunity to potentially go back here and just jack that objective and just take it, which is going to be very dicey. So I try and take advantage of that, find an opening, and the Orc Boarboy Biggins going to be surging forth onto the Glade Guard Hagbane tip. So there they come. Squealing hogs are going to get at it. And there they go. Moving on in. Big old Boarboy charge there. Pretty glorious. And the Glade Guard Hagbane tips are going to get folded up here most likely, although there are some spears and the Waystalker nearby. Tim is going to be rerouting his Eternal Guard as well as the Sisters of Thorn to try and turn this fight, and he is going to be salvaging that position. So very well played. In the meantime, on the other side, it's going okay for me. The Spider is in combat and is getting some decent damage. It's an okay melee fighter. I mean, it's an anti-large monster at its core, but even fighting against like infantry, it can do a little bit of damage. Orc Boys on the way up, and call-ins for myself are mainly going to be mobility. So we got Durkit Squig Hoppers coming in, Orc Boy Spears, and Orc Boy Spears. It's very common in the Domination metagame. For any of you guys who are like learning Dom, it's always kind of a good idea to call in spears in the second half of the battle, because most people will have their core army be their infantry and their archers, and then the cav are the secondary call-in. So calling in spears mid-game is kind of a bit of a nice counter against the waves of cav that are going to be coming. It depends on the matchup, of course. Like Dwarves, for example, can't really do that. And the Brain Buster coming down right here, so that was some okay damage against the Wildwood Rangers. And the Blorks are holding okay. I doubt their value is off the chains, but it is giving me a unit that is able to hold and fight, whereas normally, you know, Greenskin front lines aren't the most resilient. I mean, you know, Orc Boys kind of fight. I mean, a State Trooper kind of level of holding power, but yeah, the Black Orcs they're doing their thing. 101 kills right there, not bad at all. Finishing off many of the models which were damaged by the Brain Buster. Arrow of Kernus going down does nail those Orc Boys, so that one's going to be hurting a little bit. And on the back objective, I do have some routing units that I'm certainly going to need to rally as we do call in some Orc Boys. So I see a bit of an opportunity here. I noticed that Tim didn't have his back objective defended, so I'm going to be grabbing the Orc Boys that rallied over here and sending some Spec Ops through the woods. So you can see here I call in 2 Spider Riders, or Wolf Riders, excuse me. And they're going to be moving up with the Boar Boys, and we're going to be trying to steal his back objective, because the middle was kind of a bit of a stalemate. It's a really slow, ugly grind, and he's got so many spears and infantry units here, so I felt like I couldn't really break it quickly. So I was going to be taking the back objective with the intent of forcing him to go back there and then maybe loosening up the middle a little bit. Another good Flock of Doom here. Once again, even though it has been nerfed, it's still a very good spell. It's about 1,000 value right now, so nothing out of control, right? Savage Orc Shaman just kind of lurking in the back, just casting support spells. You know, if it were Wurzag, you could be a little bit more aggressive with him. I find that Wurzag has, you know, the snare and some utility to kind of protect him from close quarters, but this character, you got to be a little bit more careful, but very cheap, right? This Orc Shaman, I think, was like around 1,000 gold. Brainbuster going down there, and now Tim is going to be making a play for my back objective, so he does manage to get the Wild Riders and is able to run down the Moon Howlers. And in the meantime, we do get the Glade Riders and more Glade Riders coming over here. So Wood Elves have some of the best light cav in the entire game. and we're going to see if the little goblins are going to be able to hold them at bay. Most likely not, so we do respond with some Orc Boar Boys, so the Orc Boar Boys going to be doing their best with the Orc Shaman to try and hold this, and yeah, these gobos are going to get wrecked. Even though they do have anti-large, they're going to be getting rammed by an Eagle, as well as these fairly elite Wood Elf Cav, a Cav unit that's over 1,000 gold. And their leadership simply won't hold. That's going to be the big problem. They're goblins, just like in tabletop, like a goblin unit typically is going to be running pretty quickly under such circumstances. So on objective dose, the Wood Elves do have that one, but I do manage to steal the home objective of Tim, so we kind of traded home objectives. Unfortunately, the status quo still favors him, right? He has the middle objective. I haven't been able to wrestle it, but I think I'm going to make some ground on this side because the Orc Boar Boys with the Fists of Gork actually become very respectable, 44-48. That's a 30-second buff, right? Super cost-effective. So these Orc Boar Boys are going to be just karate chopping through this formation. They'll be able to kill most of these Wood Elf Cav. The Eagle's a little bit of a problem, but there's another unit of Orc Boar Boys coming in to reinforce. Squealing pigs out! They got them Wild Hogs coming in, and they do charge into the Wild Riders with their nice charge bonus, and this fight is going to be a Greenskin victory here for sure. We have 2 units of Orc Boar Boys, my Shaman is nearby, providing buff magic, and overall the Wood Elves will eventually fold up back here, but it's still going to take a minute. On the middle, looks like it's going to be flipping our way as well. We do have the the Night Goblin Big Bosses fighting with some of my Skirmish Cav, and the Spider providing a little bit of utility, while the Orc Boar Boys, who did steal my opponent's back objective, now are going to be collapsing on the middle. So we do collapse into the back of the Eternal Guard and get a nice little charge there, but Tim responds with more Wild Riders. It's pretty cool to see them being used, right? I remember Wild Riders were so bad for so long, but they're such a cool unit. I'm glad to see that they're actually doing well. But Spider-Man is here, and Spider-Man is an anti-large fighter, so hopefully the Flinger Shrine is going to be able to get the job done. I wish they had those things in tabletop. They're so cool. Maybe they are. I don't know Orcs and Goblins super well. But back objective is going to be reclaimed by Tim here, so he does manage to get there with some of his Glade Guard. And just in case he didn't really put a lot of effort into capturing his back objective, I figured it would be a good idea to get some of the Goblin Wolf Riders and move back there and maybe just kind of poke these like haggard, beat-up units off the objective. And then from there, I'm in a really good position, right? You can see all the objectives are kind of in flux right now. We do manage to steal the back point, so objective 3 is going to be going to us. We were able to crush the Wood Elf mobility there. So the Savage Orc Shaman, as well as the boys here, the Orc Boar Boys, going to be heading back to the middle where I've now started to lose ground. So the Dryads in the Eternal Guard doing pretty good against these the Web Flinger, the Flinger Shrine, or the Flinger Spider. There's the Arachnoid, there's the Shrine, the Catch Web, so many different names there. I'm trying to get them all down. But here we do drop a little bit of Witchcraft. Unfortunately, the overcast damage does do a ton of damage to my Lord, which felt really, really bad. My Spider does get a couple of good attacks on the Spellweaver, which is actually probably not the happiest right now. It looks like it is steady. Channeling Staff is activated to decrease cooldowns. But the Spider is going to be breaking as Tim does broach 1,000 points. So he's going to be reaching 1,100 here soon. I'm down on the 2 objectives, but as far as the trading goes, 9.2 against 10.4. So definitely within reach for either player. More Orc Boys going to be heading to the middle, and it looks like the Elven Waystalker is going to be making their way up to cause a little bit of havoc. And the Savage Orc Shaman going to be needing to retreat here. It looks like Tim going for a bit of a sniping attempt using his Wild Riders and his Eagle character, but my Goblin here did have a Squig Summon, so the Squig Summons are going to get popped like it's hot, and it will provide me with a little bit of mass. Even though Squigs aren't really good against Cav, they still have mass and will be helping my Shaman not get karate chopped here, which is very, very important. Back objective is secure, so objective 3 is in our clutches, and now the Boar Boy's going to be screaming on up to the middle. While we do get the Arachnoid Spider back, so the Spider Shrine is back, and it just shoots a random... What is it even shooting at? What the hell? Oh, there must have been something fleeing off the battlefield I didn't see. It just kind of looks like it was like randomly shooting off into the Shadow Realm. But we do start to get some capture weight in the middle, but unfortunately I'm going to have to get basically 1,000 points before he reaches 1,250. So that's not going to be easy, but I did feel as if the momentum in this game was shifting, and I was starting to kind of push back a little bit. A lot of the Wood Elf Cav were being very, very tattered at this point, and this Dryad and Wild Rider position probably going to be folded up. There's a lot of bacon down here, boys. We got the Orc Boar Boy Biggins, we got the Night Goblin Bosses, another Orc Boar unit here, as well as some Orc Spears who are providing nice anti-large attacks, and the Wild Riders do get folded up pretty bad. Squig Herds are still prevalent. And the Dryads and the Wildwood Rangers, unfortunately for me, are on their way over, so a little bit more infantry killing power, but the momentum is coming into our favor. But the issue is going to be it's probably going to fall back into a Helm's Deep situation, which is going to be very, very tough. So in anticipation of this, I send the Moonhowlers over here, which are my ROR Goblin Wolf Riders, and they're going to be working with some Spider Riders. I was kind of hoping Tim would kind of blunder on the back objective, and maybe I could get it. But of course, a very savvy veteran here is going to be grabbing the Dryads and sending them over to objective 1 to make sure I don't get that. So it's a very, very good tacticianship. Meanwhile, at the back point, there's a couple, haggard Wood Elf units who are trying to, capture that where they can, and some Wildwood Rangers are now going to be engaging in the blob fight, and they have really high stats. Wildwood Rangers are pretty sauced. I mean, they can do good against Cav as well, even though they are quote-unquote anti-infantry, right? Another shot going into my Orc Shaman. That's going to be tough. The Waystalker comes in with the punch in the face, and the Savage Orc Shaman is going to be forced to retreat to the hill. So the Savage Orc Shaman got 1,500 value. That's pretty good. He paid for himself and was also able to get some really good buff spells over the course of the game. But from here, it's going to be a little bit too hard for me. It was a very, very close match. Very scrappy back and forth on the objectives. A couple little engagements go either way, and that is a game that, could potentially have a different outcome. But Tim played a very, very clean game. And we were kind of talking about it after the game as well, that we both kind of feel that I think Wood Elves have got to be the strongest faction of the game in domination right now. They're very good. We were kind of wondering if the Greenskins with their new stuff could threaten the Wood Elves, and I think so, right? Because Tim is a better player than me. And in that case, like if he was playing against somebody who was like, top 4 in the world kind of in his caliber, the Greenskins maybe could have been able to, trade evenly with the Wood Elves there. But it was still a very, very good match. The goblins did fine. Their summons are good. You don't really care so much about their value. It's more about the 800 gold of summons they bring. The Flinger Shrine was very good. I almost think finding a way to bring a second one, like maybe cut the Squig Summoners and then cut one at Workboy and get another Flinger Shrine. That's going to give you a ton of DPS pressure against the archers. But then again, you do lose the width of your army, which is very, very good against the Wood Elves as well. But yeah, really, really fun match. I loved it. The Wild Rider play was cool, although they didn't really get good value. They kind of got shut down. I think what won him the game were probably his infantry. I don't know about the archers. No, archers did pretty good too. Some of them did, but the Dryads, yeah, nice value on them. The Eternal Guard were also quite menacing. Granted, their value didn't reflect that. But yeah, really, really good match there. I'm super excited to play Greenskins. I'm having so much fun with all their new stuff, and I just hope that we get to fix some Angler Squigs, because I want to use them. They're so iconic and cool, but in another life, perhaps, or another patch. Probably the next patch is when that'll happen. All right, guys, take care of yourselves. GG, well played, and we will be back with more sweaty replays soon.